Good morning and welcome back to the One in Celtic Fans View this morning. Before we get into the Celtic the news, I'm glad we've finally got blue skies this morning. Over the last couple of days, well, about 4 or 5 days now, we've had skies that basically look like this. We've had a lot of dust in the air from Africa. The joys have been so close to the equator, and there's been a lot of dust in there, and my eyes are absolutely stinging today. Anyway, we are back to normal, and it looks kind of a bit like this now. The outside. Anyway, good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View. Welcome to the channel this morning. Make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as it is absolutely free and it does help us reach more like-minded fans like yourself. Anyway, there's big news this morning. As I said on Sunday, this will roll on for days and days and days, and it is rolling on. But there's one thing, and you know my thought on journalists, and I've called out a journalist this morning. I've called out a journalist on Twitter telling him that he talks absolute shite. And he does, and it's Peter O'Rourke. And once again, he's went with the headline, Celtic working on deals to sign goalkeeper. Exclusive coverage. Exclusive. Everyone knows that Celtic are trying to sign a goalkeeper, and he's running this story again. But he's also saying this morning that Celtic are going to sign a defender. I'm going to sign a defender. You've got to remember, we've got £7 million worth of defenders that can't even get a game just now. But he says that Celtic are going to go out and sign a new defender. Celtic did try and get rid of Gustav Lagerbielke. Stephen Welsh was given an extended new deal at Celtic, and Big Rocky can't even get a game at Celtic. But he says that Celtic are going to go out and buy a new defender. We'll wait and see what happens. It's not a priority position, but I think a lot of people will say going into the Champions League with Scales, we could probably do a little bit better. We need someone a little bit better than Scales. You've got to remember, Scales was going to Aberdeen last summer. And I think we need someone a bit more like Cameron Carter-Vickers to go into the Champions League next season. So he's maybe just having a little stab in the dark. But when it comes down to the headline, Celtic working on deals to sign goalkeeper. Sources. Fuck off, mate. Everyone in their horse knows that Celtic are trying to sign a goalkeeper. It's not an exclusive. You know, Joe Hart came out about a month or so ago and did an interview in full explaining that he was going to retire from football. He spoke to Brendan Rodgers and the goalkeeping staff at Celtic, and it wasn't an exclusive. Anyway, Chris Sutton is at it. Chris Sutton's and he's doing his column this morning, congratulating Rangers on clinching the moral victory cup. When are they doing their George Square demolition? Like when they usually win in the cup, they go into George Square and wreck the place. Anyway. I can't even talk about how anymore. Anyway, Chris Sutton's also hit back at the one and only Graham Souness because Graham Souness, if you watched the live last night, Graham Souness says that Chris Sutton was trying to sway the way that VAR, and Chris Sutton said, "You're talking total pish, mate. You're talking total pish. How can you affect VAR? How can I?" So anyway, Souness called him out live on radio for trying to influence the old firm. Sutton says, I've not got a time machine. It's the Glasgow Derby. And how could I influence VAR when I'm sitting up here in the gantry? Yeah, absolute clown. Anyway, it's Ref John Beaton flashed the yellow card at Silva for simulation. And there's breaking news coming to that also. He flashed the card for simulation. He dived in the box. Alistair Johnson's tackle was checked by VAR, and Nick Walsh called the whistler to the monitor, and the decision was overturned. James Tavernier penalty was a beckoning. Anyway, Celtic have then come out late yesterday, and the Daily Record said it was an exclusive. For exclusive, Celtic fire an SFA missive over the Rangers penalty. Fears that John Beaton wasn't given proper footage. They didn't show the footage of Alistair Johnson actually touching the ball. It has been suggested. And Chris Sutton put on Twitter yesterday, I wish they wouldn't call it X. It's Twitter. Just keep calling it Twitter. And he's put interesting the fact that Celtic have put in this dossier and said, look, we want to see the footage. We want to go over the footage that the referee was given at the time, because we think that the referee didn't see the full passage of play. And it's easy to slow it down. And when you see his foot tap him on the thigh, and then the player go down like he's the Titanic, it's easily to say, right, maybe I got it wrong, and he did touch him, but it didn't show Alistair Johnston touching the ball beforehand, Celtic are now saying. So they're putting off a letter to the SFA complaining and want to see the full footage that the referee was given. Chris Sutton took to Twitter and put interesting, and then some of the comments. Do you think it'll ever change, Chris? Personally, I think it'll be swept under the carpet. Of course it'll be swept under the carpet. Big shout out to Carly last night. She said that anything to do with VAR will get swept under the carpet, and they'll be given as much chance as possible over the remaining games of the season. Another comment is blatant cheating. What else have they been editing? We hope at the start of something serious. The Masonic members should not be officiating Scottish football. Let's see how our spineless board takes this, says Green Fox. And another one, bringing foreign referees. You need to remember the last time that happened, it wasn't too clever. Anyway, the only one thing they're going to get sent is the video with the audio. Scottish football is corrupt to the core. The idea that there can be no corruption in football is ridiculous. We've had it in Italy, Spain, and every other walk of life. There's a clear pattern of assistance, foreign refs needed, brought in, that have no allegiances to teams that play in Scotland. And then there's another absolute nonsense, what you would expect type reply from a Rangers fan. I'm not even going to give it the airtime. The referee hasn't been shown the full incident. It raises serious questions over both the integrity and the agenda of VAR. We can debate whether or not the penalty will take long. However, this would be an entirely different matter, the fact that if the referee is not given the full footage. Remember, it was given the full footage when it was called back to, after Rangers scored, and it was called back to a tackle on a Celtic player at the passage of play. So are they being selective? Just to make sure that they get ahead? And then there's the one, you're becoming bigger embarrassment than Michael Stewart. That said something. You're becoming a bigger embarrassment than Michael Stewart. You know what side of the fence he's from, or what team he supports. Anyway, Rangers cannot keep both Celtic on the playing fields. Scottish football needs competition. Therefore, referees are being used to handicap the system. Rangers are paying their bribes on time these days. Some officials just do it because they are hardline supporters of the club. Anyway, that's the way that social media has seen it on Chris Sutton's timeline. Tell me what you think about the Celtic going to the SFA and going to complain about the VAR decision to award Rangers the penalty on Sunday. I did say that this is going to be a story, and it's always the same when there is a bit contentious. I mean, people are saying it was a classic, it was a 3-3 game, and they're laughing at us because we threw away 2 leads. But they're celebrating. We're laughing at them because they're celebrating a draw, like they just won the Champions League. Tell me what you think in the comments so far. So the breaking Scottish football news this morning, the breaking Celtic news, is the fact that Celtic have written to the SFA for a little bit of clarification, and they want to talk about the process that led to the Rangers penalty award against them in the Glasgow Derby on Sunday at Ibrox. Referee John Beaton was given video footage of the incident, and the incident didn't seemingly show Alistair Johnston touching the ball. Didn't show him touching the ball. And Fabio went down quicker than a gas cooker's knickers, and the open minutes of the second half. Let's say if he was that. Look, when it comes to the referee, should have booked him way before the penalty won, as far as I'm concerned. Beaton was giving him enough chances, and I think when it came to the penalty, it was more than obvious that he'd been diving all over the place. So he had no option at that point to book the Rangers player. If he had booked him earlier, I don't think he would have went down in the box so easily. But it was what it is. Celtic have now written to the SFA after his yellow card was overturned and he awarded the penalty. Beaton changed his mind after a shout from VAR. Celtic now wanting to find out what exactly went on with VAR and why the footage did not show, allegedly, did not show Beaton Alistair Johnston touching the ball. And if that is the case, if the VAR did not show Alistair Johnston touching the ball, that is a big accusation that Celtic are making to the SFA. Is it blatant cheating? Tell me in the comments. On that note, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans. This one's going to go on today. Have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, all around the world.